What's up, guys? It's Eric here, and there is a lot of chess drama happening, so I wanted to give you guys a bit of a summary and a few of my own thoughts on the whole situation. So I have, for some people are like, what is happening? I was away for the weekend. I come up and, everything's gone crazy. I'll give you a timeline so you can try to catch up. So starting on Sunday, it was round 3 of the Sinquefield Cup. Magnus was playing white against Hans Niemann and ended up losing that game. The Sinquefield Cup is in St. Louis. It's one of the strongest tournaments in the world. It's hosted by the St. Louis Chess Club, and I was actually there over the weekend. Up until Sunday, I was flying during the game. I will say my thoughts when I was on the plane, when I was following the game, it was like Magnus did not play very well at the end. His resistance in a bad position was below his usual standard, and he also got caught he didn't get anything out of the opening with white, and actually ended up getting a bit of a worse position. So I was like, well, this looks like a normal game. In that sense, Hans seemed to prepare against the sideline really, really well, that Magnus doesn't normally enter, and Magnus also played a lot worse towards the end than usual. Those are my first thoughts just right at the moment. Didn't see any red flags. Now, just remember that, because we're going to have to loop back into it afterwards. Fast forward, that's Sunday. Monday is round 4. Magnus is supposed to play against Mamadurov, and Hans is supposed to play against Alireza Firouzja. However, they mention during the broadcast, this is the St. Louis Chess Club broadcast. Our good friend Yasser's on there, Peter's fiddler, Alejandro. They're doing a great job, by the way. So that's where I'm getting all the info from the official channel and those guys. But they announce on the broadcast that there's going to be a 15-minute delay, and there's going to be increased security measures, radio frequency identification. So related, so like when you go to the chess club and you're a player, they have this wand that detects electronics, and you get wanded. I went to visit the playing hall. Even spectators have to do it as well. The security seems pretty good in St. Louis. For chess standards, seemed like, that's kind of the gold standard. But whatever this means, this radio frequency thing, it means like they're doing more thorough checks. So all of a sudden, the day after, more thorough checks physically and a 15-minute delay. Well, a 15-minute delay means the games are broadcast to the internet with a 15-minute delay. The games start at 1 p.m. St. Louis time. That means at 1:15 p.m. is when the audience online is seeing that first move. That is usually implemented as an anti-cheating method in chess. It's standard as an anti-cheating method. For it to happen in the middle of the tournament is not a coincidence. Because let's just say, and the point of it is like, you only have a certain amount of time in chess. 15 minutes is a pretty serious delay if you're in time trouble, or even just in general, and you're getting fed moves through some transmitter. That 15-minute delay can ruin your tempo. You'll run out of time. That's the purpose of it, at least or that's a short summary of it as an anti-cheating method. So those two things get announced on the broadcast. And then on Twitter, Magnus Carlsen tweets, "I've withdrawn from the tournament. I've always enjoyed playing in the St. Louis Chess Club and hope to be back in the future." He also includes a clip right here. He attaches a YouTube clip. I'm going to play it.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
That the tweet is normal. People would be wondering, why did Magnus withdraw? But the attached YouTube video is a bit cryptic, right? He's saying he wants to say something, or could say something. There's context, but that context could get him in trouble. That's how I perceive it. I think it's, and you can make your own conclusions. At the same time as this tweet came out, Magnus did not show up to the board. So he was forfeited, but apparently he had already informed the organizers that he was going to forfeit the game and also withdraw from the event. So from what I understand, the organizers knew in advance that this was going to happen, that Magnus was not going to show up and he was going to quit the event. I don't know when that happened, but it happened beforehand. And we have these new security measures all of a sudden. So you have the tweet, you have the forfeit, you have the increased security measures, and on the actual St. Louis Chess Club broadcast, they dedicated 2 minutes showcasing, I think, the head arbiter, Chris, wanding very thoroughly using this electronic scanner on who? Hans Niemann specifically. They dedicated a solid 2 minutes showing Hans just standing there and being wanded. I encourage you, if you want to just check out the St. Louis Chess Club on YouTube. They have a lot of these videos and interviews specifically marked, and they also have the full broadcast as a video as well, but you can find some of the clips there directly. So you have that. As that's unraveling, GM Hikaru, you guys know him, he was streaming on Twitch, and he comes out with a comment. I'm going to play this comment for you.
This is probably something I should not say, but I will say this anyway,
From
which is
Hikaru.
there was a period of over 6 months where Hans did not play any prize money tournaments on chess.com. That is the one thing that I'm going to say, and that is the only thing that I'm going to say on this topic. As of this moment, that's the only thing that I'm going to say. That's it. My lips are.
So that wasn't the only thing that Hikaru ended up saying, but it's a pretty big revelation. He's saying Hans was banned for 6 months from online events on chess.com. And yeah, that's pretty commonly known knowledge among a lot of GMs and professional players. And if you're banned from online events, it means you had fair play violations. You violated fair play online. Usually means cheating. It doesn't always mean, you can interpret that as you will, but I had the exact same understanding. It was also to my understanding that it's happened multiple times with Hans. And on top of that, I would say a lot of people know or knew that coming in. And that context is very important because then we have to look at the overall situation. And that is that Hans has violated fair play online, in a professional context. His rating has gone up a lot in the last couple of years over the board. A lot of juniors have had that during this COVID period. And then thirdly, he's a pretty outspoken guy. He likes to say things in interviews and grab some attention. So the picture I'm painting is that he attracts attention. And because everyone knows, all the other players know, that he's been banned before for cheating, well, there's naturally, pair that with the improvement, with the persona, there's going to be more attention and more suspicion. Maybe that's me saying that, but I agree with that. If someone has been caught before and been banned before, I do think that's not an even playing field. They're naturally more suspicious, and you've earned the right to be like, you deserve that. If you've online cheating, you can say, you know what, it's not as serious as over the board cheating. Well, part of the reason is because it's way harder to cheat over the board. But I still think you're crossing the cheating line, the moral line, and that's just my opinion there. So there are some, I think, deserved suspicions, but that's where it ends in terms of over the board, because cheating online is within the last couple of years. It's still something. That's my opinion there. So we got this tweet from Magnus. He withdrew. That's, as far as I know, all he said on the topic. I haven't spoken to Magnus or Hans. Don't have any inside info in that sense. Hikaru released that, and then he says something else that I tend to agree with. So I'm going to play this here.
Try to speculate here on Magnus's intentions. I think that Magnus believes that Hans probably is cheating. Again, unproven. Who knows what the reality.
So Hikaru's saying he thinks Magnus with his actions is Magnus thinks he's probably cheating. And you look at the security measures, you look at the timing, you look at the clip he's attached that you see on the screen right now, and I come to the exact same conclusion. That's the only conclusion that comes to my mind, especially when the part of the context is there's been some suspicions around Hans for a while. That seems to be the most logical conclusion with all the info we have. And you could be like, because if you don't think that's the conclusion and you're in Magnus's shoes, you could probably just clarify that, right? So I tend to agree with that as well. You might be wondering, Eric, why are you doing this? I streamed it already, some of my thoughts, so I figured I might as well post it on YouTube. I don't always involve myself in chess drama, but I've had a few stints. But yeah, I figured I'd share some comments there. So you have that. So the round is ongoing. Ali Reza and Hans are playing. Magnus is out. And everyone has their eyes on the game now. Pretty much you have a few different opinions right now and some bits of information that you can gather. There's been some interviews. So when Hans beat Magnus on Sunday, round 3, he did an interview with Alejandro afterwards. They discussed the game. They discussed how he predicted very accurately what Magnus was going to play, even though that was, let's say, less likely. They dove into that a little bit. And, then he said some comments like, Magnus is probably embarrassed to lose to me, blah, blah, blah. I invite you to watch those because it's on the St. Louis Chess Club's content, not ours, but for people that are looking for it is pretty juicy chess content. And if you remember a few weeks ago, Hans beat Magnus in the first game of a 4-game mini match at the FTX Crypto Cup, and he said, I'll let the chess speak for itself. I'm paraphrasing. I actually don't even remember anymore. Something like that. He had some interesting interviews there. And so that's some more context, right? Maybe who knows how Magnus took that. Magnus did win the next 3 games to clean the matchup. But there's maybe a little bit of existing history there. And right now, what we have the detectives. You got Hikaru streaming, I streamed, you have the audience, everyone's going crazy. People are speculating. You have people breaking down Hans's interview after the Alejandro game, Hans's interview after the Ali Reza game. He drew Ali Reza yesterday. And you also have other players chiming in from all over. There's a few different camps there. But like for me, I watched the interviews and I gave my original thoughts on the game, but I say there's already an existing cloud, and surely that existing cloud over Hans must have affected the game with Magnus. Magnus's resistance wasn't very good, and I think there must be some suspicion before the game. You don't just lose a game. Magnus has never lost a game and quit a tournament, ever. So I think there's some existing thoughts there, and that was the last straw. Something from that game, some info, but I do believe, and I agree with Hikaru, that the Magnus team believes something is wrong. Something's up enough to quit the tournament and attract all this attention. From watching the interviews with Hans about his games, because I've said one way to know about a player and kind of try to understand their strength, I think, is to hear the analysis and how they talk about it afterwards. And I think that my conclusions from watching that the 2 days, Hans was very incoherent in the interviews. I don't know if that's just now he's become incoherent, but not only he was incoherent and just like answering basic questions, but his chess analysis quality was, I would say, really poor for someone playing at a very high level, like 2900. He's doing really well in the tournament. You could say he's really nervous. I don't think what's happening is very common. And then on top of that, he's developed an accent, but it's a fake accent. I've spoken to the guy in the last couple of years. He grew up in the US. He has a pretty standard American accent. All of a sudden he's developed like some weird Eastern European, not only accent, but some different speech patterns. But it doesn't come off as authentic to me at all. I like, and in some of the interviews, his regular voice was coming out. That might be just unrelated to everything. I'm just saying what was on my mind, that I found that completely strange. Never heard of it before. And it just didn't make any sense that his voice and everything about it would totally change in the last year, especially from chess, when you're in your hotel, you're traveling, but you're not really immersing yourself in the cultures. Most of us chess players are in the same circuit, go to the same countries, go to Eastern Europe. I was just in India for a few weeks, didn't come back with an Indian accent. It's pretty unheard of, especially that he wasn't like living there for a long time. But I don't know, that might just be completely unrelated, but I have to mention it because it triggers me when I watch the interviews. I don't mind the other stuff, like if you're just talking shit or like there's a 19-year-old just saying random things. It happens for different motivations, but doesn't really bother me particularly. And then so there's that. The accent is weird, and the analysis seemed pretty substandard. And Alejandro was asking some very good questions, I thought, in the interview. I'm going to post some of the links in the description for you to catch up for context. But that was definitely like stood out to me. Although again, those are my thoughts, but there could be confirmation bias. This is part of a larger thing in chess that unfortunately will not disappear ever, as far as I know. There is some paranoia about chess cheating, and it won't go away because there's a certain percentage of cheating happening all the time. Even at the highest levels of chess, grandmasters have been caught, and out of the that's just people being caught. The incentive is there. The barrier is getting lower in a lot of ways. Barrier of entry as technology improves, and because engines are getting so strong, there's really no chance when someone is cleverly using some assistance. It also means there's going to be cases where people are for sure clean, but because it's also easier to get better at chess than it has been in previous periods. So you have kids are shooting up right now in ways that we haven't seen before. The India Olympiad was kind of a big thing there, where Uzbekistan won with a very young team, and they really, really beat up a lot of seasoned top professionals. And there's definitely a wave of almost like post-COVID chess players coming out and showing that chess is just getting stronger and stronger, and that the juniors now, with all the training tools available, are increasing at a faster rate than before. At least I think that. And so I can even say some of the players that are really becoming top players right now, some familiar names. A couple of years ago, people were suspicious about them online. During COVID, there weren't over the board tournaments for periods, so either these players are underrated and playing top level chess, or they're using something. That's what a lot of people were thinking. And in most cases, the suspicions were wrong. But it's because there was no tournaments because of COVID that people just couldn't properly get a measuring stick to figure it out. Wow, now it seems these kids are legit, and they really are that strong. That's what it seems to be trending towards. And I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the chess pyramid hierarchy system with all these juniors booming after the main part of the pandemic, let's say. So So yeah, but you have this. When I say paranoia, there were some other interviews with players, and there's a range. Some people were saying, they had, I think, an interview with Aronian, Firouzja, Caruana, maybe some more players. There's people tuning, chiming in on Twitter. There's a range of that, but there's people that are like giving off inconclusive statements, people hinting, people saying no. It's definitely not uniform in opinions, because like there's been a lot of cases and scandals in chess. It's been going on for quite some time. If you want to do a deep dive, or you want to know some of the big cases where, let's say, professionals were caught, Igor Rausas was one recently, about 10 years ago. Sebastian Feller, and that happened at the Chess Olympics, so a really big stage that had security protocols. There's some other ones, but those two will help you start. I mean, there's even a world championship match where there was accusations of cheating. Toiletgate. It was called Toiletgate. So this actually happens, but in terms of like post chess boom, this is probably the biggest one and the first one. Because for me, the only way to look at this is that there's suspicions of some sort of fair play violations. I mean, you hear some conspiracies like, oh, maybe some preparation was stolen, or somehow because of the opening that Hans played. I don't know enough about that to properly give a good comment about guessing the opening, stuff like that. It's not my area of expertise when it comes to theory. Hacking, who knows? There's all these things. No idea. I'm just commenting on like the quality of the analysis. The accent stands out. I've spoken to Hans before. Don't really know him in person, but online he's been on the channel and whatnot, and I have known about the violations online. I know Magnus a bit better, but in terms of like opening prep and stuff like that, never worked with anyone there, and yeah, I'm just guessing in the dark when it comes to that. So it's like Tuesday right now. The 5th round is happening, and where we stand is Magnus has not said anything. Hans is playing still. They still have the delay, and everyone is just speculating like crazy. That's where you have it. Check out some of the interviews. Caro said something nice about me during this whole stream he did. What was that? Let's see here.
Living my best life. I'm living my best life. chessbrahs ever show glimpses of brilliance? Yes, Eric Hansen actually, when he's like he gets a good solid opening, he gets positions. He has shown glimpses of brilliance. Yeah, I mean,
there you go. I've shown glimpses of brilliancy. So we got the rare. We got the compliment. We take those. But yeah, that's the current situation. I don't know if I'm missing anything. But pretty much, to summarize, you have like a personality, Hans. He gives interviews. You love him or hate him. He's all over the place. He's got the fake accent. He's rocking a fake accent. His rating has risen like crazy. He's taking names, and it's been commonly known that he's been caught online, as far as I know, multiple times. So you have that. So you have this cloud around Hans, but now Magnus withdrawing and adding that is a bit of a statement, in my opinion. And now we're just figuring things out. I don't really know how anybody can prove anything. It's all just speculation. You kind of have two situations. Like, Magnus has never done this before, and to me, I'll say it like, I don't think I'm neutral fully, because I think Magnus to me is the chess GOAT. But even if he isn't for you, he's the strongest player of all time, highest rated player of all time. And chess is also at a higher level now, so there's a few different metrics, but he's like the strongest player. I don't think people are disputing that very much. 20 years, who knows what the next generation is going to look like, but right now, strongest player we've ever had. Him dropping out of the tournament, posting a cryptic tweet. He's never done that before, and he's got his team around him. He understands chess really well. Something is up. So, and his intuition is really, 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 really strong. I can't even describe it because it's only his. So you have that where there might be something fishy happening. There's a reason he did this, and he feels so strongly about it. He definitely does feel so strongly about it that he quit the event. Most players, even when you're suspicious about someone cheating, you're suspicious about blah blah blah, you don't actually drop out of the event. You don't. You're not sure enough, and you are risking your reputation, or you like are too afraid. It doesn't matter, but like to have that level, it shows a serious level of conviction and willingness to take the risk. There's a risk, some percentage of risk that he could be wrong. You're right. So either there's that Magnus is right, and he really needed to take a stand, whatever his thought is, or Hans is like playing legit chess, and then in that case, like, the popcorn's only going to continue, because imagine the storylines happening there if there's nothing wrong. Like, why did he quit the tournament? It's gonna only build Hans up even more, and that would be a bad look for Magnus. I mean, maybe if he comes out and clarifies something, but I think a lot of people are assuming that he thinks something is wrong. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, like, so, like, on one hand, I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Magnus. I think he's the strongest player. Does he like losing? No, nobody likes losing. He doesn't always react the best. I don't react the best, but he doesn't quit tournaments, full stop. So I really think he feels very strongly about that, and when he has a strong chess opinion, I tend to listen. And then on the other hand, I shared my thoughts that when I saw the game on Sunday, round 3, Carlsen Niemann, there were no red flags immediately to me. Just the opening was good and the resistance by Magnus was poor, so I don't get red flags from that game. And I tend to believe there's existing context and thoughts. You guys, if you've played online, if you think someone's cheating, any level, 200 rated or top level, if you think your opponent could be cheating, psychologically, you can't play as well. When you think you might be playing someone who's getting help, it is you just can't play your game. Your resistance is lower, everything, because you start, it's almost like a confirmation bias or self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, sometimes it's right. When someone is cheating, you should have no chance. But there's definitely there has to be something existing, I think, an opinion, a thought that during the game was permeating throughout. Because I don't think, like, anybody, even if you're the best player, even if you're like the world's foremost expert on chess cheating, one game is enough to be like, okay, I'm done, I'm out, this guy's cheating. That usually isn't the case. There's usually a pattern, some analysis, whatever it is. So I think it's something brewing from beforehand. But yeah, that's kind of what's happening right now, and I don't really know, like, I'm not predicting that something's going to be resolved before this tournament is ended. I don't know. Nothing's been found so far in the checks, as far as I know, and I don't know how things are going to be resolved. People are just waiting. It's just very inconclusive. Yeah. I didn't really say too much. I'm not good at these videos. So the accent, he's putting on some weird fake accent. It's bothering me. Analysis is bad. The game itself didn't seem off, though. He played against Ali Reza yesterday. His analysis was also quite poor, I thought, there, and some things didn't make sense at all to me. But I think we're also coming from the context of knowing there's some suspicion. If I was watching that without this whole withdrawal, I would still think it's well below par analysis, and some things are very incoherent in the interviews. I would 100% think that anyways, but maybe not to the same degree, or it just might be, this person's bad at, I don't know, analysis. Shouldn't be the case, really. I think the level he's playing, you should be able to verbalize things a bit better, but I'm not I'm not going to be too much of a detective there. So yeah, that's the current situation. I was going to show some clips, but better go on the St. Louis Chess Club channel for that. That's it. Don't expect too many more of these. I felt like I had to post it because I streamed it anyways. But yeah, it's just kind of sad, I guess. Maybe that's like a final thought. I've had cheating videos on YouTube. You've seen I have like some catch a cheater videos, but it's happened in professional chess. It'll always happen. The incentive is there. The tech is there. And even when it doesn't happen, once you're paranoid and concerned, it can kill. It kills your ability to play, but it can, kill your passion and interest. Like what I mean by that is like, okay, like I don't think Magnus felt like he could have played the rest of the games properly because once it's in your head psychologically, you can't really focus anymore. And I've had that before too. There have been some another cheating case, or speculation was the Talberon case. That was on YouTube, so that's why I'm mentioning it. You can check that one out. But there's been quite a few cases of GMs eventually getting caught, but until they get caught, you have like a long period where, you're just waiting, and you don't know what's happening. But there's always somebody cheating in chess, and most people aren't, and you're never going to get it right. Chess websites have been wrong about people before. They're mainly right, but they've been wrong about people, and all over the place. Like it's very hard to prove. It's very hard to prove either way, and for a lot of the top players, it's kind of an intuitive thing, but you need to match the intuition with also some more concrete things, and the whole thing is just depressing to think about. I've played my fair share of cheaters, and it is very demoralizing, but doesn't mean everyone is. So that's the current situation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm gonna post the links in the description. I just showed the tweet, played a couple clips, but you'll find most of the context from the Sinquefield Cup on the St. Louis Chess Club website. Otherwise, I don't really use Reddit, but I think everyone's compiling things on Reddit, and probably Twitter. Twitter you should probably also follow because you have different people chiming in, all sorts of different opinions, which is good. And I think like Hikaru he was the one to break some of the info, so he's also covering it, and I played a couple of the GM Hikaru Twitch clips. So yeah, let me know what you think. And I will see you guys for the next one.